Good morning, everyone. I am Rochelle Bertasso, one of your Helpside HR business partners. We want to welcome you to round one of our HR Bootcamp training, Leading a Workforce in the 21st Century. This is a three-part series covering best practices and resources for the entire employee life cycle. We are glad you are joining us today and hope you will be able to join us for rounds 2 and 3 of our boot camp held from 11 a.m. to 12 noon Mountain Standard Time tomorrow and Thursday. Our main presenters for today's webinar are Jeff Ng, our Senior HR Business Partner, and Daryl Harmon, HR Consultant over Training and Development. Before we get started, we have a few housekeeping items to make you aware of. After today's webinar, you will receive a follow-up communication containing all information seen at the bottom of this slide, including a copy of the PowerPoint presentation, location information for all referenced Helpside resources, including forms, documents, and templates, the SHRM and HRCI activity codes, and finally, a link to the webinar recording itself in case you would like to review it sometime in the future. If during the webinar you have questions or technical issues, please feel free to use the Q&A section located to the right of your screen. We do have HR staff standing by to help. For questions asked that might benefit all of our listeners, we will take time to have Jeff and Daryl answer as many of those as possible, either during or toward the end of our webinar today. So let's get started with a brief overview of what you can look forward to over the next 3 days. Day 1 today, we will cover hiring. Included in this discussion, we will provide a brief introduction to Helpside and the services and resources we provide. We will also give you our best tips and tricks for both finding the right employees and providing them with a successful onboarding experience. Day 2, we will focus on keeping employees on track and engaged. Topics covered will include compensation, performance management, and employee engagement. Day 3, we reach the end of the employee life cycle and will focus on ending the employment relationship. Topics covered will include turnover, separation processes, and reducing unemployment claims. So without further ado, I'll now give the floor over to Jeff and Daryl.
Great, thanks Rochelle. Excellent introduction, by the way. That is what we'll cover over the next 3 days. Just to be sure that you are in the right place, we're going to kick things off with a quiz. No, not a quiz, a poll.
A poll.
We do quizzes in school. We're not in school anymore. We're going to do a poll. So we want to ask you, how many of the following have you dealt with? So an employee asks for an update to his payroll. Good, okay, you started reading, so I'm going to stop talking. I'll let you read.
Yeah, so read through those, check all that apply.
A lot of very familiar scenarios, Jeff.
Yes. And these are good. Good responses so far. Looks like everybody's had a lot of these, or most of these, it looks like so far. And these are good. And while you guys are answering that, just really quick, when I first started in HR, these are similar things that I had to deal with. I didn't know a whole lot about HR. It just got dumped on me, onto my plate, and said, here, figure this out. So it looks like some of you are probably in that same boat. So, welcome everybody. We're excited to have you. Thank you for participating in our poll today. And yeah, these are great responses. Thank you for participating.
Okay, looks like you're in the right place. So, to begin then, let's give you a quick introduction to Helpside, the experts at your side. And this is a very brief introduction to the various groups that you have helping you out. First of all, the benefits group, of course. They're going to help you with open enrollment, benefits packages, answer your questions around all those things.
Next, we have the payroll department. And for those of you that are our clients and you've been around with us for a while, you've already dealt with at least one payroll specialist, if not several. They run your payrolls. They're the ones that you communicate with the most. And for those of you that are unaware, they can also track your PTO. We can also set up your PTO, that team can. So if you're interested in that, contact your payroll specialist and they can help you get that set up.
The next group then that we're featuring is the planning and insurance group. They help you with 401k plans.
Then there's the risk management team. And again, for those of you that are Helpside clients, If you are on our work comp policy, we handle all of that for you. We also handle any issues. We do some safety trainings. There's a lot of resources for you that our safety team and risk management team has put together. So that is another great resource for you if you need some safety and work comp policy things taken care of for you.
And then your first line of defense, really against any kind of issue you have, is our CSM team, so our customer success managers. They help with new employee onboarding, client support. So they're your first point of contact typically when you come on board here at Helpside. And they can help you with things like DocuSign, basic payroll questions, online access, basic benefits questions, and just general Q&A. And again, they're your first line of defense. You call them first, and then if they can't handle it, they will put it out to one of these other teams. Wait, Jeff, there's one group that we're missing.
There is one more team, and that is your human resources team. That is us. We are here to help. And you can see we've got several people on our team. This is all of us so far. And we all handle different things, but we also handle similar things. So if you need or have a specific need, you can reach out to that person specifically, or you can reach out to any one of us as we back each other up as well. So please reach out to us if you have any HR concerns or have any questions around basic issues.
That's right, and you'll be hearing from several of us actually over the next 3 days. So you'll get to know us a little bit more. All right, that's us. Let's dive into then the first topic, which is hiring great people. Again, as Rochelle mentioned, our tips and tricks around the basics on this. Now, to begin, we want to see how comfortable you are with hiring. So give us your input there. Everywhere, everything from uncomfortable to fine to comfortable to love it. Where do you fall on that spectrum?
Uncomfortable started out really well. The 50% is dropping.
Nervous people like, no. Give me some tips on that.
No, this is good. It
That's
looks like
because we've done, of course we've been on the other side of it in being applicants, so we know what it's like to go through that as an applicant. But also we've done a fair amount of hiring, Jeff. You and I have, so we understand. It's a kind of a big deal. But it looks like most of us are okay to comfortable with it. That's an excellent place to begin. All right. Well, not to make you more nervous, those of you who are already nervous, but it's kind of a big deal. When you go to hire someone, as you probably already know if you've done it, it costs. It takes time, it takes money, and based on Society for Human Resource Management statistics, the average cost per hire is over $4,000. Now that varies depending on the level of the position that you're filling. Sometimes it's a little bit less, sometimes it's a lot more. But the point is that it's not cheap. And so you want to make sure you do it right. And how long it takes is anywhere from 2 to 10 weeks, again depending on the position you're trying to fill and how well you're set up to do that, a couple of weeks to a couple of months. So we're here to help you out with that. And to do that, we're going to go through a 5-stage process for hiring. That's going to cover everything from posting a job, advertising it, to gathering information on potential new recruits, to the application process, how do we get their information, sifting through that and going through effective interviews, and then finally making the job offers so that we can plug them into our org chart, welcome them into our organizational family. So before we begin that process, Jeff, take us through some of the basic federal laws, federal and state local laws that are key to hiring.
Yeah, so these are very key things and very important things to keep in mind, and we all think about these things all throughout our tenure in any organization, but sometimes we forget about these as part of the hiring process. So to start off with, we've got the Civil Rights Act, which says that you cannot discriminate based off of race, color, sex, religion, national origin, all of those. So be very mindful of that when you are doing your hiring, your interviewing, just to make sure that you are not discriminating against anything specifically like that. That could get into some bigger issues down the road.
Right.
Next, there is the Age Discrimination in Employment Act, and that protects candidates or anybody over the age of 40. So be very mindful of that when you are hiring for your teams. You can't not hire somebody that's older. Just because you have a younger team, for example, does not mean you can't or shouldn't hire somebody older.
Or newer technology.
Or
Speaking
that
for the
too.
over 40 crowd, I can tell you, I know how to do that Twitter stuff.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so be very mindful of that. That's a perfect example. And then there's the Pregnancy Discrimination Act. Be very mindful of this because, again, most of the time, pregnancy is not going to come up as part of your discussion, or it shouldn't come up as part of your discussion when you're doing the interviews, but it may come up shortly after hiring them. Maybe women look like they're pregnant and probably are. You can't not hire them because of that. That'll get you into some serious trouble down the road, so be very mindful and careful of that piece.
A lot of times this is very subtle. I mean,
Yes.
If we think about women in childbearing age, for example, and we think, oh, I want somebody who's going to be here and stable, and so just subconsciously I might be worried about that. Don't do that. Hire the best candidate.
Yes. Best advice we can give all day. Hire the best candidate, no matter the circumstance. Next is the Americans with Disabilities Act, or the ADA. So this one states that you cannot not hire or promote or give a raise or do anything like that to anybody that has a disability. There are some tips that we're going to be discussing here shortly around disabilities. We'll get to that here in a minute, so we won't discuss that too much more here. But also keep in mind there are local regulations that you do need to be aware of, and every state is different. Every county, every city, all of that, everybody has different laws and different regulations, so be very mindful of where you are. And to give you some examples of what that looks like is right here. All right, there are 25 states so far that have put together some sort of sexual orientation laws, so be very mindful of what that looks like. Same with marital status, height and weight, misdemeanor arrest records, all of those types of things are protected classes in some states, so be very careful with all of those. And if you have questions and concerns about all that, reach out to us. We are happy to walk you through what that looks like for your state. Most of you that are participating today are coming to us from Utah, and we are very well versed in a lot of the Utah laws and regulations, so give us a call. We are happy to help with all of that.
Excellent advice, Jeff. All right, now that we're set legally on a solid foundation, let's move into the first step in our hiring process, which is advertising the job. Now, let's take a look at a couple of job postings, Jeff, and talk about some potential watchouts here. So we know what we want, we know what we're looking for, and we're going to put that out there. But again, we want to be mindful of both legal restrictions and just an effective post. So this first one is for a restaurant manager, and the requirements are a 4-year college degree, minimum 1 to 3 years successful documented management experience. Sounds good. Must live in the Lake Charles area or the local area. Local area candidates are strongly preferred. Must be currently employed. Okay, that seems to make sense. Qualifications required. No more than 2 jobs in 5 years and currently working with a quick, casual, or full-service restaurant manager position. All right, Jeff, I don't know what's wrong with this. Use your expert eye and tell me where the washouts are here.
Yeah, so if you were looking at this for the very first time, it would probably seem like most of that is okay. And for some of you that have been in HR for a little while, you probably recognize right off the bat what some of these might be. So let's start right off with there we go. They must live in the Lake Charles area. Why is that a problem? But the more important question is, why does that matter?
Right.
Okay,
I mean,
local,
just where somebody lives.
right? It seems harmless, but
Right.
at the same time, if you live in a very diverse population right there, you are potentially discriminating against anybody else that's not of that same national origin, race, gender, whatever it may be. So be very mindful. It's best to accept applications from anywhere, not necessarily from a specific area. And now we understand, we get it, there's probably some reasoning as to why they have to live in that area.
Yeah, we don't want to worry
But be
about
mindful.
people getting caught in awful traffic where we live or something
Yes.
like that. So we're just thinking from that standpoint. Again, some of these things are rather subtle, but again, if you live in a rather homogeneous area where it's all one ethnicity or one group, then you could be unconsciously or inadvertently discriminating against others.
Yeah. Yep. So be very careful. Also, must be currently employed. Well, there's a couple issues with this one. First, if they are currently employed, you are potentially discriminating against somebody that might have a disability and might not have been able to work previously. Now they're cleared to work, now they're able to work, but according to this job description, they have to be currently employed. Well, that could be an issue. It could also be an issue for pregnant women that just gave birth that were taking a little bit of time off to be with their kids, might be a few weeks, might be a few months, might be a few years, or just getting back into the workforce. By saying that they have to be currently employed, you are also discriminating against pregnant women. So be very mindful and very careful about the wording of those types of things. And then finally, no more than 2 jobs in 5 years. Job hoppers, it's a thing.
Get used to it.
Yeah, exactly. Get used to it. It's a thing. We get it. We understand it. But again, there could be that unconscious or potential disability issue where if they were unable to work for a time and now they're back in the workforce, or had to change because of the work restrictions, something like that, that could be a factor. So even if that is posted on there, no more than 2 jobs in 5 years, be open to the possibility of at least accepting somebody that might have something going on like that.
And there may be other issues that we don't know about. Really, you want to ask yourself, what does that have to do with this current job that we're trying to fill? Right? Is that really a requirement or is it not? And this, by the way, this is a real posting that we found. So.
Yes.
All right, let's do a better job then, Jeff. Talk us through the good example. What did we avoid here? What did we include to make us a better example?
Yeah, so this is much better because it speaks more to the actual job. So that first requirement, 4-year college degree, minimum 1 to 3 years successful documented management experience, that is great. Accustomed to working in a fast-paced upscale restaurant, that is also excellent because it's describing what the job is going to be. It doesn't have anything to do with being in the local area or specific things. It's just very to the point about the job. That's what we're looking for. So experience at hiring, motivating a top-notch crew, problem solving, all of those things related to the job. And then minimum 3 years restaurant experience. So if you're looking for somebody with that type of experience, yes, you can put, we need somebody that already has experience. That is perfectly fine.
It's not like you're going to take anybody up the street. That's fine. You can have requirements.
Yes. Yep. Still can't have that. And then I love this last one, current food handler license. Hopefully every restaurant is this way, for starters.
Yeah, that's right.
But yes, you can put those types of qualifications in there.
Generally speaking, you can look for certifications, licenses,
Yes.
etc. And that's definitely what you want to do, what you want to focus on. All right. Thanks for saving us from illegal hiring, Jeff. Now let's ask our listeners, what's wrong with this? Now that you guys have a feel for some of the legal parameters and whatnot, just have a look. This is a little bit harder. Maybe this is closer to a quiz than a poll.
This one might be.
Yes, but have a look at this real posting that we got, needworktoday.com. Any potential watch outs here? Go ahead and just type those in the text box and let's see what your eyes see.
Race, all white men. Good answer so far. No diversity. Yep, you're nailing it.
Yeah.
Lack of diversity in picture. Okay. I think they've got this one, Daryl.
Yeah. Yeah, this is not super, super hard. All able-bodied white male is excellent, right. So not a lot of, I mean, in a word, there's not much diversity.
Yes.
So if you look at the scenes here, so a truck driver, a farmer, a pilot, those are things that women can and do, though people with disabilities can do those. People of different races obviously can do those and do those. So excellent. Again, Jeff, kind of summarize for us, what are we looking for in a job posting?
Yeah, so if you're going to put pictures in a job posting, make it diverse.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you all guessed that right off the bat already, so make it diverse. Otherwise, if you're posting a picture like this, you would be targeting white men only and discriminating against gender, other races,
Right.
national, all of that. So be open to all of that. Change your postings if you need to. If you have additional questions or concerns or would like us to review some of those with you, give us a call. We can help you with that.
Yep.
We want to make sure that you're doing things correctly as well.
Basically, focus on the job, focus on hiring the best candidate.
Yep.
That's what we want to do. All right, that's our first step in the hiring process. Then let's move on to recruiting. How do we actually start gathering information and potential candidates? So here we have 2 options, internal versus external searches. Internal searches are things like employee referral programs, right, which maybe you already use. Then there are the external postings like the KSL Classifieds, Indeed, Department of Workforce Services. So which do we do? The internal one is less expensive. We don't actually have to pay. I mean, maybe we'll give some finder's fees, but let's give you an example of that one, in fact. So if we build it, people will use it. They will come, right? So let's suppose we have an employee referral program. We put it together, put word out to all of our current employees, hey, we're looking to fill these positions. And it works wonderfully well. People are telling their friends, their neighbors, their postal carriers, And people are applying, so we're getting applications in hand over fist. Jeff, this looks like a good scenario. What could possibly be wrong with it?
Yeah, so it does. It looks great, you know, and as part of the hiring, when I did a lot of hiring, we would do that too.
Sure.
There's nothing wrong with the referral program, but, and here's the but of all of this, okay? You do need to be careful because when you do the referral program, you are generally going to get the same type of people that you currently have. So if you don't have a very diverse workforce, you're not going to have a very diverse workforce because people generally tend to hang out with, be friends with, obviously family with, right?
That's right.
With the same type that they are. So be very mindful of that. That could raise some issues if you've got some or lack of diversity down the road. So be very mindful of that. Be very careful.
And diversity,
but it works.
And diversity is not only a legal issue, but also an effectiveness issue. Your pool is going to be smaller. So there's nothing wrong with an employee referral program. Just understand that it's probably not a silver bullet, a one-stop, shop for everything that you're looking for. Okay, well, talk to us then, Jeff, about balancing this out.
Okay, so balancing it out. Here's a good tip for this. If or when you come into a hiring bind and you have to have somebody right now, do both.
Yeah.
Do the internal referral program and post it externally. Especially if you're hiring multiple people. Oh, we have to have about 5 people right now.
Right.
You're going to get the quick fix from the internal candidates.
Maybe.
Hopefully, maybe, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, but you're also going to get a little bit more diversity out of posting online. So we recommend doing both whenever and wherever possible.
That's right. We've mentioned it takes time and money to get new employees in. You're going to invest that anyway. You want to make sure you have a good return for that investment, and so you want to cast your net broadly. Excellent advice. All right, that's our quick tip on hiring or where to look for hiring. Now we're going to bring in our resident hiring expert, Maddie Morin, and she's going to talk to us about a resource that you have available to you.
Thanks, Daryl. So what you're looking at here is a snapshot of the Prism HR hiring portal. This is an extremely easy portal to navigate. It also has a lot of perks about using this software. One of the major things is that you are 100% in control of your hiring process. You can post and manage your job postings, track and view all the applicants. You have access to several different onboarding tools. And so this is just an extremely helpful software to bring on a new employee and be able to have access to all of their information anytime that you would like. So now we're going to go on to talking about the application process. So that's one of the major parts in the hiring process and extremely important on how you craft and propose your application. So if you just want to take a quick second and look at this application, maybe look at it, see if you can find some problems or some issues that might come about. So whenever I look at this, I see about the top 10 boo-boos, we like to call it here, that we should look out for. So the first one is gender. If you ask what gender they are, this is an avenue to provide discrimination in your hiring process. So you don't want to ask that on your application. The second one is, are you currently employed? And Jeff and Daryl kind of talked about this earlier, but you don't want to discriminate on someone who's coming back into the workforce, such as a mom that's been taking care of her kids for a few years or a father that's been doing the same as well. The next question is, are you a U.S. citizen? Well, this is actually an illegal question, so you definitely don't want to put this on there. But a better way to ask it is, are you authorized to work in the U.S.?
So we can still get at the same underlying need, right, to have a legal workforce.
Yeah, that's great. So the next one that I see is the driver's license. So this might be, you might not think this is such a bad question, but by getting the driver's license and also the driver's license state that's listed on the driver's license, this can provide discrimination, obtaining demographics of the place where they're from, and so you want to stay away from asking those certain questions. The next one is high school year graduated. So this is kind of a questionable question. Why does it really matter when they graduate from high school? If they can do the job, it doesn't matter what year they graduated. But so you just kind of want to stay away from this. There also leads to some discrimination on age. And so anything that can come about from discrimination of a question, you want to stay away from that on your application.
Most people graduate around 17, 18 years old, so you can do the math. This year minus 18, then you can guess at the age and say, oh, we don't want that guy. He's too old.
Exactly. So we're going to move on to some of the issues that maybe are a little bit more subtle when you look at this. So references, you might ask, what's wrong with asking for
Sure.
references? And I think references are a good thing. However, you need to have a statement or an authorization statement saying that the applicant gives you permission to reach out to these references. So you want to make sure you have that listed either before or after the references tab. The next one is starting salary. Why are you asking? What does it matter, what they made at their last job? And this can lead to discrimination as well with determining their new position. If they made a lower salary, you might be more willing to give them a salary. So a better question here would be, what is your expectation for pay in this position?
This also can lead to an underlying issue of gender discrimination, because there is a gender pay gap. It continues. Women tend to be paid less than men. And so if we ask, if I've got 3 good candidates, 2 men, 1 woman, and I take a look at what the woman was making before, and I might say, oh, she's willing to take less, and I perpetuate that gender discrimination. So don't want to do that.
Thank you, Daryl. Yeah, that is very true. The next one, I don't want to go too deep into this, but the type of discharge. We don't need to know why people were discharged from the military, and if it was a negative consequence, that will definitely affect the way that you're hiring. So you want to stay away from that question.
Again, military status is a protected class in federal law.
Exactly. And lastly, a signature is a good thing. You want them to sign this application, but you need to have a verification statement. So there should be a place on the application for the applicant to sign with a pre-printed statement that the applicant's signature indicates the verification of this information, so that this information is true and up to date. This is important because if you find something that's not correct or that they've potentially lied about on their application, you can release them from your applicant pool without any discrimination or illegal laws coming at you.
Excellent. Excellent advice. Okay, well, that's the wrong way to do it, Maddie.
Yeah, that's definitely the wrong way to do it. So this
Tell us the right way.
So here is, we have lots of helpful resources here at Helpside, and this is one that we have to help you just craft or give you an exact application to put in for your applicants and for your jobs that you're posting.
Good. I'm glad that we have a right way to do this as well. So it's nice to have cautionary tales and watch-outs, but I also want to have the right way to do it.
Definitely.
Okay, that's the application process. Now let's move into the interview process. We've gathered applications, we've found some candidates that look promising, now we want to bring them in and talk to them. So, Jeff, take us through again kind of the legal landmines of the questions that we ask people, the wrong questions, maybe bad questions, and better questions.
Yeah, and this is really important. And one thing to remember about this is the interview does not actually start when you sit down at the conference table.
Oh, good point.
Or in a conference room, or wherever you're doing the interview. That's not when it starts. It starts the second they walk in the door, and it ends the second they leave. So it's really awkward to walk somebody from the very front of the building
Right.
to the very back of the building. You want to do chit-chat, make it more lively, try to connect. So that's when a lot of questions get asked that should not be asked. Okay, they also get asked during the interview, but it's also this extra time that gets people in trouble. So let's go through what you should not ask, and let's start with this one. Where were your parents born?
Right.
That's very key.
That's a pretty typical, hey, where are you from? Where are your parents born? That's an interesting last name, right?
Yeah, and it's very typical when it's a cool last name. Oh, where does that name come from? Or where are your parents? Yeah, exactly. Don't do that. That is a citizenship question. You don't want to ask that. And we've talked about this one previously, but the better way to do that is, are you legally authorized to work in the United States? If you hire them, then you can ask them about where their last name's from, but don't do it prior to that.
And this gets at the underlying issue anyway, right?
It
Am I
does.
hiring somebody who's legally authorized to work here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And do you have any disabilities? This one gets asked, and it's really hard because we know that most of the time there's no ill will with asking this,
Right.
but it's still illegal.
I just need to know, right?
Yes.
So I'm going to ask directly.
Yes. So don't ask it. I mean, if they walk in and you can physically see that, yes, there is a disability, there might be an issue with the job, then you can kind of get around it. And the way that you're going to do that is, are you able to perform the duties of this position? You would hand them a copy of the job description and you would ask that question, can you do everything on the job description? That's one of the best ways to get around that potential issue.
And again, that's really what we're interested in, right?
Yes.
If you think about it, we're just not asking it very well in the first case, but these...
Yes.
Great.
Yeah. Next, age. How long do you plan to work before you retire? This is great.
We want to know, right?
We want to know.
Can we count on you? What's your longevity, your loyalty?
Yeah, because more often than not, companies are looking for somebody that's going to be there long term. And if they bring somebody in, and forgive me, that looks a little bit older,
I won't take exception to that.
Thank
I
you,
know.
thank you. But they're going to ask, and they're going to want to know how long you're going to be here. You can't ask that because it's an age issue. So what you could ask instead is, what are your long-term career goals? By asking it this way, if they're close to retirement, they're going to tell you anyway.
Sure.
They're going to say, oh yeah, I want to work for a couple more years, and then I'll retire, and I'll move to wherever and be done.
But they're
They'll
volunteering
let you know.
it,
Yes.
and you're getting at the underlying question that you really have anyway.
Yes.
How long might you be around?
Exactly. And if they voluntarily give you that information, great. You just can't ask for it.
That's right.
That's the big difference to keep in mind. Next, which religious holidays do you observe? Well, that one's very key. Can't do that, right?
Right.
So,
Pretty straightforward.
yeah, yeah. The better question to ask is, are you able to work within our required schedule? So this is the time, especially around Christmas time, to give them a copy of your company PTO plan or your company holiday schedule that shows which holidays are taken off, especially if it's a religious holiday such as Christmas. If they say that they don't celebrate Christmas, they celebrate something else,
Right.
then you can make those religious accommodations. But to flat out ask them which religious holidays do you observe to make sure it's in line with your company, not a good idea.
It's tantamount to saying, what religion are you?
Pretty
Right?
much.
It's the same thing. Yeah.
Yep. And finally, can you get a babysitter on short notice? We get it. There are industries where at the drop of a hat, hey everybody, we're working overtime today, make sure that you can stay. We get it.
Right.
There's a lot of industries that do that. But by asking it this way in an interview process, you are potentially discriminating against sex or marital status. So, are you able to work overtime with no notice is a much better way to do it during the interview. And again, at this point, they're probably going to disclose, oh, you know, it might be hard with daycare, or no, my spouse gets home at this time, so I need to be home a little bit before or after to take care of kids. They're going to disclose it at that time anyway.
Right.
You just have to make sure you're asking it the right way.
And a variation on this could be, are you able to travel for extended periods of time,
Yes.
or things like that. And think about it, which gender would typically get asked this, right? It's more likely than not going to be asked of a woman, and again, then we get into gender discrimination. Because the assumption is, oh, mom's got to be there, and fine. I mean, as a business, though, we're asking a business-related question. Are you able to work overtime? Can you take extended business trips? Things like that. Excellent advice, Jeff. Thank you.
Yeah, those are all great, and you're probably taking notes, but you don't have to. The reason why you don't have to is because we have these resources readily available for you on our website. You'll also get a copy of all of these at the end of our boot camp anyway, but the very last one there, the one that's behind, is phone interview question template, so some appropriate questions to ask during a phone interview. The one in front is just a sample questionnaire, a lot of different questions about what you should ask or could ask during the interview. But the middle one, the interview question do's and don'ts guidelines, if you don't feel comfortable with hiring, if you mark that as part of one of our poll questions, it'd be a really good idea to review that guideline so that you know what you can ask, what you cannot ask. It spells out what you can't ask. It lets you know why you can't ask that. So review those. Even if you're a pro at hiring, it probably isn't a bad idea to review some of these.
Excellent. Great. Okay, the next step, the final step in our hiring process then is to extend a job offer. We finally found the right candidate, the person we want to hire. Now we want to make sure that we bring that person in the right way. So let's turn back to Maddie. Maddie, talk to us about what goes into a good job offer.
Yeah, of course, a job offer is really important, to invite someone to come work for your company, so you want to make sure you do it right. So according to Glassdoor, the top 5 pieces of information job seekers want employers to provide as they research where to work is 1, compensation.
Absolutely.
So,
show me the money.
Yeah, show me what I'm making. This can either be hourly, monthly, or an annual salary that you put in this compensation guide. The next is benefits, so either medical, dental, vision. We're not going to go into deep details in this, but just kind of an overview of what your benefits package includes.
Yep.
And then your perks. So what makes your company great? Why do they want to come work for you? This includes monthly lunches, annual parties, maybe Taco Tuesdays or Fruit Fridays, anything on there that you want to kind of, show your perks and what you offer your employees. The next is company information. So your purpose, your clients, the different departments within your company, just kind of an overview so they know what they're getting into. And then lastly is the company culture. So this is an opportunity for you to, restate your mission, your values, your vision, and also maybe you put a line in there of how they're going to add value and how you see that they're a good candidate and a good fit for your culture within your company.
Really excellent advice. If you think about it, a lot of times people respond, well, they do, they respond to job postings, and so they're looking for the job, but now that everybody's agreed, yeah, this is probably a good fit, now you want to start informing them on, okay, here's the world you're walking into. So, great advice. And we have a tool for that.
Yeah, so this tool that we have here, this resource is on our website, for you, for your use, and it kind of gives an outline of a job offer.
Right.
What we find important. You can mix it around, put what you need to put to match your company, but this is for you to help you craft a complete and good job offer for your
It's a great template. Like a lot of our resources, they are templates. They're a starting place where you can take it, customize it, make it your own.
Exactly.
Excellent. Thanks, Maddie. Okay, just to reiterate, hiring is kind of a big deal. We're going to spend thousands of dollars and weeks of time to get the right candidate and bring them in. So let's do it right the first time, or we'll have to do it over and over and over again and waste that time and money. So here's our total 5-step process for hiring the right people. Advertising, recruiting, applying, interviewing, and then extending the job offer. All right, let's shift gears. Now that we've got the right person in the door, where do we go from there? Let's talk a little bit about onboarding. In fact, let's ask you, what do you currently do? How long is your onboarding process? A little construction humor there with the tape measure. How long is your onboarding process? You basically get it done in about an hour, take a day, a week, a month, more.
So far it's about a week is the win. Oh, there we go.
Okay.
Yeah, these
Some
stats, they
people-
keep changing up. I like it.
Get it, man, get it. This is great. This is great, quite a variety.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you for your participation on this. Again, we just like to get a good idea for where our clients are at and where we could potentially help you out with that. So, let's talk about the difference between onboarding and orientation. So orientation, this has been taking place since the very first company ever existed. You hire somebody, you bring them in, you go through new hire paperwork, you get their IDs, you take them on a tour, and then you start the training process.
It's all the basic stuff.
All the basic
You got to
stuff.
do it. Everybody's got to do it, right?
Yeah, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with
Get them
that.
set up with payroll. I mean, it's all the legal things, all the
Yeah,
basics.
the basics. And there's nothing wrong with any of that.
Right.
It's all good, it's all perfect, and it works. However, there is a new trend taking place with an onboarding process. And the onboarding process looks something like this. It looks very similar to the orientation piece. You bring them in, you do the new hire paperwork, you get their IDs, you set up payroll, you do all that. But in addition to that, you are going to have their workspace all set up and ready to go. You're probably going to have a swag bag or their favorite treats or something on their desk ready to welcome them so that they feel welcome. At the same time, you're going to have somebody assigned to them, a mentor program, if you will, somebody that can be there to answer questions, somebody to befriend them, introduce them to the rest of the team, somebody to take them to lunch, show them the area if they're kind of new to the area, things like that. Really, it's just somebody to be there to help out when they need it.
Right. Yeah, think about it again. They're making this big career transition, kind of life transition, where they saw a job posting, the job looked great, they jumped on board, and now they're on board, but they're brand new to your company. So you want to do a little bit more than just the paperwork of getting them signed up and, to get paid and all the legal compliance.
Yeah.
So what if we don't do that, Jeff? What are the consequences?
Here are the consequences, and here's some statistics for you, for those of you that are like me and are kind of nerdy and like some stats and some data. So this data is from our Helpside clients for last year, for 2018.
Right.
And 15% of your workforce were leaving within the first 30 days.
Had some time and money out the door, down the drain.
Do the math on that for those of you that have, fewer than 20 employees, for example. That's quite a bit.
Yeah.
Now, a little bit longer, there's 35% of your workforce is leaving, or your new hires, are leaving within the first 2 to 6 months. So if you've already done the math, that's 50% of your new hires are leaving within the first 6 months.
That's crazy.
That is crazy. But there are some things to do with that. And Daryl, you had an experience.
I did. I had a wonderful experience where I was hired on, and what greeted me was a chair, quite literally a chair. Not a desk, not a computer, nothing but a chair. And they said, oh yeah, I guess we should order you a computer. Well, I wasn't all that thrilled about the new decision, or the decision I made to have this new job. So, It's sort of an extreme, and it is a true story. Don't do that.
And
that doesn't send a good impression, and people say, maybe that other job I applied for would have been better.
And that's a real thing. It happens, and that did not happen here at Helpside.
I should be clear about that. And and with the unemployment so incredibly low, Jeff, it's not like we want a revolving door, right? We want to keep people definitely more than 6 months.
Yes. And so if you find yourself, if we're giving you anything today with that onboarding piece, we've got a lot of additional resources that we'll go through with that here in just a minute. But one of the worst things you can do is have a bad experience. They're going to leave you real quick, just like our statistics are showing. Just like the experience Daryl had. They're going to leave pretty quick. So, Daryl?
Remember, you're not just wooing them during the interview process. You're selling yourself on your employees the whole time they're there. Because if you look at the next slice as well, 3/4 of people left. This is, again, real statistics. 3/4 of our clients' employees left within the first year. So not a good scenario. Again, a lot of wasted time, energy, money. So what does make a good first impression? Here's some easy things that you can do to help people feel welcome, get them integrated into your company. And this is based, again, on research. Our friends at HR Bamboo found this, that 9% of people said, they just wanted some more leader involvement. Typically for employees, the organization, the company is my boss and our big boss, right? The president, the CEO, whoever's running the whole show. That's kind of the company to me. And so it'd be nice if I know who the names are and who they are, and it wouldn't hurt if the president welcomed all the new hires, said, hey, really glad to have you here. Doesn't have to be a big deal. The next thing then is recognition. Now this is not performance recognition because they haven't started yet, they haven't done anything, but recognition for why we hired you. Hey Jeff, is really great, in the interview process you really wowed all of us, we were impressed with your knowledge, with your charm, your humor, whatever it is, but just some personal connection to help them then feel a connection to the organization. The third thing then is helpful coworkers. So again, introducing them around to people. They want to get to know all the team members as well, but especially maybe some key people. So who maybe the Helpside number if they have a payroll question. Who's their IT contact? Who do they go to? As Jeff, you mentioned, a mentor or a job buddy, someone they can reach out to if they have questions. Effective training. People come with experience and knowledge, but they may need specific training. In fact, it's likely they'll need specific training for the job they're doing. And so it's not enough to get them in the door and say, hey, great to have you here, go to work. Right? A little bit of instruction or maybe a lot of instruction depending on the job. So people want that as well. And then finally, clear guidelines. So, okay, I get it. I get the job. I'm bringing my experience, but what do you expect of me? What does my boss expect of me? Having those clear guidelines helps me to get more integrated, feel more integrated, and frankly, get up to speed a lot faster. So these are not really hard things to do. These are really basic things to do, but they make a big difference. So let me talk you through the first day of an employee that maybe could have gone a little bit better. Right? So you've got a new hire. She's super excited to start with you. In fact, she's so excited it's hard to sleep. She's dreaming about her new job, and she gets up in the morning and she's thinking, oh, what do I wear? What was the dress code again? And she changes 3 times trying to get just the right outfit. And oh, by the way, are they going to feed me lunch? Should I bring lunch? I'm not quite sure. So she brings a little bagged lunch just in case. Then she gets out on the road, and it's a new route to work, and the traffic is heavier than she thought. So she's starting to feel a little bit stressed, but she makes it through. She gets to your office, and oh, where do I park now? And there's no parking spaces. She's circling around trying to find somewhere to park her car. She finally does, hoping it doesn't get towed away, and she makes her way into the building, greeted by the receptionist, only to be told, oh, who are you again? Receptionist wasn't ready. She doesn't have her name on the new hire roster, and she showed up at 8 o'clock just like she was told, the new hire, and the receptionist said, oh, well, new hire and orientation isn't until 9. So why don't you go ahead and just have a seat in the lobby, make yourself comfortable. And what's our new hire thinking now, right? She's really worked hard to get there on time the first day, and they're not even ready for her. Finally, 45 minutes later, somebody from the orientation team comes and starts to give her some new hire stuff, give her a little bit of information, have her do that paperwork, then takes her over to meet her new boss, only to find that the new boss is out that day. Great. Now what do we do? Well, the orientation leader ad-libs and says, well, here's the employee handbook. Why don't you sit down and start reading that? That's exciting. That's what we all want to do on our first day, right? Slog through a bunch of legalese. Now, employee handbooks are important. Don't get me wrong. It's just not the most exciting thing, that can greet you on your first day. And so your new hire is stuck spending her time not working, not getting to know people, but going through some legal documents. Not the best way to start your first day.
Yeah, they're probably not feeling all that great about it.
That's right. So instead, do some of the things that we talked about before. Just think like a new hire. In fact, to help us,
yeah, we have what we call a welcome letter. It's part of the onboarding process. We have incorporated this at Helpside just for that same thing. We're trying to put everybody's minds at ease. And this is a copy of what we use, and you can tailor this to fit your needs. But it goes through everything. When you arrive, where to park, who are you going to meet with. We tell them we're going to take you to lunch on your first day. Bring a picture, bring IDs. It gives them all the information that they need so that they don't have to be awake all night trying to figure out, oh, what should I wear? It tells them in the welcome letter, we wear this on our first day, and then we'll go over what the dress code is. So it really puts their mind at ease, and it's just one of those things that you can send to your new hire a couple of days before they start working, just really so that they can put their minds at ease and have a great and much better.
Think about ways that you could enhance that. And as always, to help you out,
we have additional resources for you. So as part of the orientation and or onboarding process, there's always the additional paperwork pieces that need to be done, such as E-Verify. Some states require that, so if you're in one of those states and you're not running E-Verify, give us a call. We can help run that for you, or if you'd like to set yourselves up, that works too. We also have background check agreements, and we can run background checks for you for a lot of different things. County, state, national drug test. We've got all sorts of different things that we can run for you. MVRs, for those of you that need driving background checks done, we can run a lot of that for you. So if you're interested, let us know. We also do drug testing. So if you're interested in having drug testing for one reason or another, let us know. We can get you set up with drug testing. So again, these are just the things that are additional parts that have to be done, or may need to be done, may not have to be, but may need to be done. Additionally, on our website, it's a brand new HR piece of the website anyway, where we have broken it all down by topic. And on the website, if you go to the HR library, we have the hiring library, and each of these different things is a link that takes you to a different form or to a new webinar or to a resource or tool or whatever you may need. So if you have additional questions or want additional resources, we have a hiring library. We have an onboarding library to talk about some of the different things that we've talked about today, some different tips and tricks. But one of the most important things that everybody needs to make sure they do, and you're going to hear a lot about this over the next couple of days, is the employee handbook. Make sure that your employees are reading through it, understanding what's in it, make sure that they are adhering to it, signing off on it, because that's going to save you in the long run, and we will explain why, like I said, over the next couple of days.
You know, and this, you mentioned the new website. Well, it's not a new website, it's a revised website. I'm really excited about it, Jeff. We got a lot of feedback from our clients that it was just too cumbersome, things were buried too deeply. And so if you're a current client, you've tried to navigate our website in the past, you'll be really happy to see the new version of it. It's streamlined, it's much easier, much more intuitive. Okay, that's basically what we want to cover today, but let's leave you with this thought from Simon Sinek. He said, customers will never love your company until the employees love it first. So the customer experience, which is so crucial to your success as an organization, really does begin with the employee experience. So the better the experience your employees have, it's more likely that your customers will have a better experience as well.
Awesome. All right, so we do have a few questions that came in. Are you guys up for that?
We think
Absolutely.
So.
Okay, well, the first one came in from Laura, and this was specifically during the section we were talking about applications and the do's and don'ts. And so she asked, what if the employee or potential employee is required to travel for a position? Can you ask about the driver's license in that case?
That is a great question.
So it's travel, and I'm trying to see the connection. I mean, if they have to drive, obviously you can't ask for the driver's license. If they have one, current one, you know,
Yes.
CDL, anything like that.
Yep.
But go ahead, Jeff, you were going to answer.
Yeah, no, absolutely. If it's a requirement of the job that they have to drive, if it's CDL or if it's just driving a car, postal, you know, whatever it may be, yes, you can ask about driver's license if they have one, if it's current, if it's updated, all that. Yes, you can ask for that. If it's not a driving-related job position,
Right.
we recommend you leave it off.
Right.
It's not pertinent to that job, don't put it on. It could be a potential unbiased discriminator.
And really, job-related requirements, that's the backbone, that's the foundation of any good job posting, interview questions, all of that, because you can avoid lots of legal problems with that. If it's required for the job, and if other people have done it or are currently doing it, then it's certainly going to be legal, and you can ask about that. In fact, you need to ask about that, because you don't want to hire someone in hoping they can drive or they can travel or whatever it might be. Good question.
All right, awesome. So kind of along the same vein, this is still part of the application portion of what we're covering today. And what about asking someone's age if they only want workers who are over 18? What do you guys think about that?
So that one is good.
Right.
That one's really good. Yes, you can ask about 18, but again, is it required?
Right.
Again, there are some Department of Labor laws that say that under 18 cannot work certain hours of the day. They cannot be in certain industries around certain equipment, machinery, hazardous materials, things like that. So yes, you can potentially ask that question if it is pertinent to the job.
Right. And I think your caution earlier, Jeff, is really talking about the Age Discrimination in Employment Act. So it's the over 40 question that can really get you in hot water.
Yes.
But you're right. And a lot of our clients do hire people who are, teenagers under 18, and so you do need to know the parameters there. We're often asked about that. When can they work? How many hours can they work? Et cetera, et cetera. So sure, that very likely could be very legitimate.
Awesome. Okay, well, what do you think about this one? What about in kind of an interview or application situation, do you think it's okay to ask an employee if they can pass a drug test?
That is good.
You can ask them, but you can also test them. So
yes.
You don't necessarily have to take their word for it. Yeah, I can do that. And so you haven't proved that, but you can certainly ask. Because again, even with legalized medical marijuana, and we did a whole webinar on this a couple of months ago on drug testing in the workplace and whatnot, which we go into more detail. But essentially, yeah, you can require people to be drug-free. And to Jeff's point a minute ago about an employee handbook, you definitely want to have a policy around drug-free workplace. But you can certainly ask about it, and you can you can test people for it.
Okay. All right, a couple more questions that came in. One said, if most of our hiring needs are filled by word of mouth, do I really need to have formal written job descriptions?
I'll take this one. I love that question.
Yeah, I'm glad you will, Jeff, because that's a tough one.
Yeah, because I'm going to jump all over this one, mostly because when our clients call in and they have similar things like this, that's one of the first questions I always ask. Yes, it is very important to have written job descriptions for every single position in your organization. That is going to save you from a lot of ADA issues. If an employee comes to you and says, hey, I've got this medical issue happening, then you're going to have to go down potentially FMLA route, potential ADA route. But at the end of the day, if they're not able to do the job, can you make accommodations? Do you legally have to make accommodations? But it's all going to boil down to, do they have a job description that they are actually working off of?
Right.
Very important, should have it, again, for every position. We recommend it. Is it required by law? No, it's not. It's just highly recommended to avoid other legal issues down the road.
It can also help you against preferential treatment or other forms of discrimination where if it's not documented, well, why'd you hire her? I could have done the job, and you don't really have a basis on which to answer that. You say, well, because I don't know, it's my niece, and so I'm going to hire her. And it's fine to hire your niece as long as she qualifies and you're not discriminating against other people, and the basis for that discrimination would be the job description.
Yes.
All right, awesome. Okay, well, one last one. What if an applicant says, so this came in, this is kind of part of maybe that interviewing process and just asking good questions versus bad ones. But what if an applicant says they can do the job requirements, but I have doubts because of something physical that I can see about them? How do I make sure I don't discriminate, but also don't end up with an employee who can't perform the essential functions of the job?
Great job.
What can I do?
Great question. Great question. So as part of your interview process, it might not be a bad idea to put some testing in place. For example, in some industries, you may need to have people working with their hands most of the day, so you might need to do a dexterity test. Or if it's an office setting, you might need to do a typing test to make sure they can type X amount of words per minute. But if you can physically see that they have, and I'll just throw this out as an example because this happened to me once, we had an applicant that came in and we could see that they did not have use of one of their hands. We did have a requirement that they did have to type 90 words per minute. they were the top candidates. So the hiring manager at the time was asking, well, we can see that they can't use one of their hands. What do we do? We did do the type test, and sure enough, one-handed, they were able to type a lot more than that.
That's crazy.
It was crazy.
That's amazing. That's impressive. So you never know, right? You don't want to just judge based on appearances.
Yeah.
And some disabilities, well, you asked the question about an obvious disability. Some disabilities aren't so obvious, but that's... So Jeff, then if I understand in this case, then I just test the candidates who look like they may not be able to pass this test.
Love
Wait,
that.
You're laughing at me.
I am laughing. Yeah, you definitely don't want to do that because now you are potentially discriminating. So, yes, try to put all of these testing formats, however you need to do it or want to do it, in place prior to hiring. That is a great point, Daryl. Thank you for bringing that up. So put it in place. If you have to have a lifting requirement, bring in some weights. Have them lift that as part of the interview, if you need, right? We recommend it. Put all of that in place prior to doing any hiring to keep yourselves out of some hot water down the road. But don't just test that one person.
And one quick tip is just think about the kind of requirements for all of your jobs. Again, it goes back to the job description. What are the requirements of the job in terms of, dexterity or physical strength or whatever it might be? Think about what your employees are currently doing, or if it's a new position, think through that position. What might a person struggle with? What might they claim that they can do but they can't? And that will help you then prepare appropriate testing or questions.
Awesome. Well, thanks, you guys. That is all we have in terms of questions and everything else. If any of you guys think of anything that you wanted to ask but didn't, we'll stay on the line for just a minute or two, and maybe we can respond to individually. So thanks, you guys, so much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you all tomorrow for Boot Camp Round 2 at 11 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, where we will give our best practices for keeping employees on track and engaged. You won't want to miss it.
Thank you, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.